Hits the pound.
Yeah, this is how we do it in the Central Coast, man. We got 40 ounces, Old English, rag tops, 6'4" Impalas, and bikini girls, man. This is how we do it on the West Coast. San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles. But don't forget about the Central Cali, man. Please don't forget about the Central Cali. Yeah, get 'em.
It's another sunny day in the state of California. Low rider palm trees and G's that put it on ya. This ain't a negative, we speaking ebonics. Rank talk, candy paint on D's with hydraulics. Baseball hat with the sticker on the brim. Don't let the sun blind your sight, cause things can get grim. But I'm not here to talk about banana clips and guns. We're going back to Cali and we're gonna have some fun. A West Coast domination.
And welcome back to Two Face Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Friendship with out here in Monterey County, also known to the world as the Salad Bowl, also known as the Salinas Valley. To the people in LA, we are north. To the people in San Francisco, we are south. Right smack in the middle, best of both worlds. Don't forget about the Central Cali. Anyway, folks, today, before we get started, guys, disclaimer, this is a tough one because I want you guys to understand one thing. I'm not putting everybody, all one race in one category. Like, oh, this is the way these people behave. This is the way this race of people behaves, and so on and so forth. Right? Again, this is the disclaimer. I'm simply explaining to you guys my story of what happened and what's happening in the United States, where people are starting to kind of rebel or stand up for now, in a sense, although it doesn't make it right either way, right? Because there are citizens who also mistreat other people of other races, nationalities, origins, and so on and so forth, right? But again, bear with me of what I'm about to tell you and how I'm going to go about it, and I'm not coming at it in a disrespectful, in a hateful, or a vindictive kind of way, you know. And simply, this is just simply what happened. Okay, in the early 2000s, I was working at this place. I won't name the place that it was. Right, those of you that know me personally know what I'm talking about. And there was people of all origins there, right? And again, I don't put people in categories. It was a little melting pot, if you will, right? There's just people, there's Caucasians, there's African American people, Latin, Hispanic, Mexican American, whatever you want to call it. People different areas, right? Different places. When I say Mexicans, let me just put it to you this way: some of them were illegal. Okay. And people of all nationalities, be it Caucasian, being African American, being illegals, whatever it may be. I've had some great friends that are labeled that, right? Or whatever you want to call it. With that said, guys, what happened was I was working very close with a few of the illegals. And being fairly new there, it was like, hey, how do you do this? You know what? Like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I would ask a question, right? As co-workers, because a lot of them I knew from the previous job that we had that the company shut down at. So I wasn't exactly new. Well, I was new to the place, but to a lot of people, we're already familiar with it, right? So I noticed that right away they would be like, I don't know. kind of like, what? Like, why can't this guy just tell me, right? Eventually, of course, I got down to the nitty gritty of things, get things done, and got with the flow of things. But I would notice that little things, little petty stuff, if you will, just getting back. Sometimes we would go out to lunch, go down the street, go to KFC and order, wings and all this other stuff, and be running back a little bit, a group of us, and sometimes it'd be, 5, 10 seconds, not minutes, like late back, we're trying to get in. Especially on Fridays, sometimes we, Friday, you eat goes in the work environment, you already know, right? Well, they didn't seem to mind, but when these guys, these illegal people, they made it an issue to, for lack of a better word, rat me out and rat out anybody else in that mix that was Mexican American or of American descent, in the sense that we were born out here, and so on and so forth. The people who ran the company were Caucasian, and sometimes my coworker, who was illegal, would go up to the head supervisor, whatever you want to call it, right? Caucasian guy, go and start giving him a massage and basically kissing his tail all the time, doing all this other stuff. So we had another guy who was also Caucasian, but he was our supervisor, and we had to go to him, to whatever situation it was. So we'll go with A, which was the main guy, and B, which was our supervisor that we went to. So we didn't have to go to, A. I'll put it together like that without giving you guys any names. So I remember my coworkers saying, hey man, when there's problems, I'm not going to go to B. I'm going to go straight to A. My dedication is to him. I don't even care about him. He didn't like our our supervisor, because he was kind of a down to earth, if you will. I don't want to say street guy. He was more of a down to earth kind of guy. He was a people person. Let's just put it that way. And to be honest with you guys, that place was a very hostile, racist environment. I'll be honest about that. It kind of shook me a little bit that in 2002 it was still people were getting away with that kind of stuff. One of the guys that was made a lead there happened to be of African American descent. If anything went wrong, he would yell at people, yell at us as a group, yell at us individually. He'd be writing people up for no apparent reason, for his own personal reasons. It just became a real bad place to be, to where I've always said, this is what I've always said, especially because that was an independent company. And I've always felt that if you had bad management, it's going to fail. You got to have the right people for the right job. You know what I mean? This was more of a power trip to everybody that had any kind of position. My illegal coworker would be like, oh well, they have cameras here, But I saw one time, I oversaw his stuff, and he was taking pictures of me behind my back. because we would work with cameras and so on and so forth. Stuff like that, to where I don't want to get into the situation to where when my son was born, but I had back and forth words with the supervisor there, and he told me some very, very racist comments that to this day, unfortunately, again, being who I am, those of you guys who've seen this channel, those of you guys who've seen me on the round table, and I've been an open book about a lot of things, I'm a grudgeful person. And on my son's birthday, I always think of that for whatever reason, although I'm happy that he turns another year older, but I always think of the words that was told to me, especially when you're having a child. I don't want to repeat it because it does make my blood boil. But basically, when I called in to tell him, hey, I'm at the hospital, he said, in short term, he just said, the only reason you're at the hospital right now is because you have this job and we're paying for insurance. If not, you'd probably be having them at the house. To the next day, he apologized, but that does no good to me. I don't care. I'm not that kind of guy like, oh, well, okay, but when you say something like that harsh, that racist, that hateful, I'm just not buying it, So anyhow, moving forward with that, I started to notice that a lot of the illegals too were kind of coming together when it came time to do notes, when it came time to write reports on the computer. They started to get more like, whoa, this and this and that, because the guy saw that I was like, typing up, and I've always been a pretty good writer when it comes to writing reports or whatever. I could write stuff pretty good in details, and some will say the music as well, but that's a whole different story. But yeah, let's just say that reading and writing has been one of my biggest, things that I've dealt with ever since school. So, so they kind of rebelled against that. They kind of went against that, sabotaging the work. Oh, well, Fred did it. When I know as well I didn't do it, well, Fred said this about this, this stuff, whatever. And I get chewed out for it, and I get chewed out for stuff like that, right? And it's just, it became a difficult place to where you don't, I didn't even want to go to work. I didn't want to go to work anymore. I was straight up with them. I was very straightforward with them. I never disrespected. There was a time when they held a little pizza party for the company or whatever, right? It was a take your child to work day or whatever. Being that my son was an infant at the time, of course, I wasn't gonna take him. I took my nephew, and at lunchtime, we were gonna head out to go. I think I was gonna go buy some. At the time, I was going to buy some CDs or something, or I was getting CDs pressed at this place that wasn't too far from where I worked at, because I was involved in doing the music stuff. So I said, "Hey man, let's go to the restroom first, and we'll go downstairs and we'll take off. We'll come back." So as I'm walking to the restroom, as we're walking toward the restroom, the stairways like right here to go up where the party was at. As we were walking, I barely was going to start going toward the restroom this way when the supervisor's just watching me. He literally ran down the stairs. He literally ran down the stairs and comes up and says, "Hey, I don't think it's a good idea for you to for you to go up there with your nephew right now because, there's other people that work for this, the pizzas for the employees and stuff. And I don't think it's a good idea. I said I wasn't going to go upstairs, man. We're going to the restroom. I'm going to go out for lunch. And he goes, okay. True story. Needless to say, I got irritated. I went, did what we had to do, wash our hands, left the building, went and got our stuff, came back on time. Just I was sitting down in my cubicle thing, and supervisor comes and goes, "Hey man, there's a lot of pizza left over. If you guys want to eat pizza, it's all right there." And in my mind was, man, shove it. We're not getting up and getting nothing. I left it there. It was like, no. I'm not going to do that, So, anyways, that happened. But as that happened too, though, some of the illegal people, they started to be like, oh, well, you guys aren't the smartest, and just trash talking, sabotaging, just doing a whole bunch of stuff to where it became a very hard, environment to work at when you have, and mind you, this is the thing and it doesn't make it right whichever way it goes, And I don't mean to put it in race, but just to make it very clear, you have the Caucasian people coming down on you for no apparent reason. You got the African American guy who got the position. He's writing you up because he just got an ego trip over it. Maybe he just doesn't like you. And it wasn't just happening to me. It was happening to a lot of us. I'm giving you guys my story. And then you got the illegal / border brothers, or as a lot of us, and a lot guilty of, you call them paisas, right? They are ratting you out. They're doing all this stuff. They're kissing the biggest tail to all of them, and they're like buddies with everybody. I mean, I'd be sitting in the cubicle, and I see some of the guys pass by from the office or whatever, and from the the main offices or whatever, and they're walking by, and I look because the guy's looking that way, and I just happen to look, just kind of boom, and they're walking by, and they're like, like in other words, hi to you, but screw him. Like, I don't seek any kind of validation from anybody. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I didn't really care, but it was just, that's what I'm saying. There was that kind of place, Needless to say that I was pulled into the office one day, and I already knew going in, and I actually hid for a couple of hours running around. I was hiding, and I would be watching the supervisor, and it was a kind of cat and mouse thing, but I already knew, so I was, I had already taken everything that I needed to take. I put it in the car. And I was kind of hiding from him, running around the building. He was looking at me like, why isn't he in his position? I'm like, screw that. I'm going to get paid for I'm already getting paid. I'm trying to leave, So eventually he says, hey, you got a minute? I said, yeah, sure. And they pull me in, tell me, oh, we're sorry to say that your position's closed, and yada, yada, yada. We don't have room or whatever. They're laying me off. Okay, cool, fine. It's cool, fine. I said, man, whatever, it's fine. It's cool. Oh, thank you. You make it so much easier for me, and da. I think I had to go get one more thing in my cubicle spot, so when I went back to my area to go get that one thing I think I had a little toolbox to work on computer boards and stuff. It had my personal tools in there. I think that's the only thing that was left. I went to go grab it. As soon as I went in and I looked, you had my former illegal co-worker. Hey, trying to be acting all like he was feeling bad. But then the new guy that was replacing me, that supposedly my position was closed, there was another illegal in my spot. And I was like, wow. needless to say, hey, why sit there and try to argue with somebody that's whatever, you know? I got in my car and I took off. I remember I didn't even come home for hours. I took off. I went to go see a friend of mine, another guy who did music. From there, I took off to, I think, to San Jose or something by myself. I was just driving around all over the place. I couldn't come home. I couldn't bear to come home to tell my family that, you know. But you know, it just was, it still was a blessing though, because it just sucked, you know. I mean, it just like, it's still kind of like, wow, this is crazy, you know. This is crazy that this still exists in this time, you know. And eventually, of course, everything came out in the wash. Of course, hey, you know, yeah, you got laid off, whatever. Um, but I also, this is also why I feel like oftentimes we tend to want to say, oh, these are our people. The unfortunate and reality of it is, guys, that in these kind of decisions, which are not easy, there's a lot of collateral damage. You know, because there are good people. There are good people in these, be it illegals, be it Caucasian, be it African American, whichever. There are good people. And it is collateral damage when all this is happening. Let me back up a little bit to bring you guys back to speed on what happened. The company, excuse me, eventually the company folded. They got rid of all the higher ups, all the people in the office. They fired everybody, and they pretty much they fired everybody. New management came in, and it was a complete different story. When I had to go revisit them for some other stuff I had there, be it my 401k, when I called and I noticed how the great hospitality they had, the kindness, and I was like kind of like thrown back, like, whoa, what happened to everybody? What happened to everybody? They cleaned house. But going back to what I'm saying, guys, about the illegals and so on and so forth, I have to say, guys, that there is a lot of people with bad intentions. I'm not saying all. I do understand that it just happens to be collateral damage, and that's just the way it is. You know. And I'm only telling you guys because I experienced these kind of hostile environments, these kind of, it doesn't make the Caucasian or the African American any right in any other way, right? But see, they got theirs. In the end, they got theirs. They folded and they got rid of them. But a lot of the people here feel threatened. A lot of the illegal people, some of them in a working environment, they feel threatened by those of us that can read and write and speak Spanish. So we're a threat to a lot of them. I'm not keywords to a lot of them, not everybody. So yeah, what's happening now? It was a matter of time. It's a matter of time. People tend to look at things like, oh, well, you're not going to go pick the field. Who's going to do the job in the field? And we've already known about that. That's almost a racist thing within itself to say something like that, right? But when it comes time to, people say, taking our jobs, yeah, it's true. We're ran out of our jobs because they're maliciously sabotaging, spiteful, hateful, setting up things to get you out of there. And when they can't fire you, they make up this laying off situation, right? Because there's no grounds for them to fire you to begin with. A lot of the stuff is non-union. Therefore, that's it. You just deal with it, But yeah, that's what it is, guys. And again, I don't hold a grudge towards every single illegal, every single Caucasian person, every single African American person, so on and so forth. But I have ran into a bad batch of people. And this is not the only place. I've ran into them in different places. So, I believe now that in this year, with everything going on, with people sometimes, I understand that sometimes people have a different opinion about it, want to look at it through a racist view, or you're a sellout, you think you, because of this and this and that. Well, sometimes we need to step back and think about it. Maybe because you haven't experienced what this person, such as myself, has gone through. So you may not understand where I'm coming from, or why I think the way I do, why I agree with what some of the things that I may agree with, so on and so forth, and vice versa, right? But I knew that this situation wasn't going to get any better, and I don't want to get political on it, guys, but I'll leave it at that. I just started to paint together the story, because it's one thing to be like, well, get laid off, but then you went on to do another job, right? You're okay, yeah, cool, yeah, that's fine, or they hired somebody illegal and you got to come home and you have to apply for unemployment, so on and so forth. Those things happen. Fortunately, I ended up at a good job, but that did not make me say, oh, well, I don't. It doesn't affect me any longer, because hey, I'm working here now, and this isn't going to happen here. I think of my children. I think of other people in the United States. I don't think of myself. So those are the reasons, and sometimes, it's easy for people to say, well, this whatever your opinion is about it, right? The problem is when you have a family and you have to go home and tell your family that you've been laid off. It's hurtful to the family, to the entire family, in a sense. It's gonna dent your pocket for a little bit, It's gonna put some dents in it, and that's the harsh reality. I think that's where it kind of comes into play. Those are the details that a lot of people do not understand and do not put into perspective of what happens when you have to go home, and maybe, your kids are used to a certain kind of thing, your family's used to a certain kind of thing. Well, now you got to pull back a little bit, That's all I'm really saying. We got to understand. We got to have a little bit of empathy of where people are coming from, why they say what they say, why they believe in what they believe in. Sometimes it's not in a hateful way. It's more of a personal matter. And it's not to say, I hate everybody, that this and this and that. But again, in this situation, there just happens to be a lot of collateral damage. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, guys, unfortunately, So, with that, this is Two-Face Entertainment Podcast. I am the host, Fred Segura, signing out.
Shake the fist, suckers preaching me rolling. Why you so mad? Why you so serious? Shit in my rear view like the slow and delirious. Keep on mashing, getting plenty action. The home of the G's and pimps, I love it with a passion. Throw it up, it's California, where the sun lays to rest like every day. The home of the color rack, swap meets and bangers. Chuck Taylor's, Lolos, and them real dope slangers. This is reality, it's where I stay. Along the Pacific in the state of CA. Golden State, from Frisco to Compton and back to Central Cali where the party keeps rocking. It's a California state of mind, and you can't be mad, that's just how we ride. Golden State.
But it's really for me. I'm not saying that I'm greedy, but hip-hop is needy, so what the hell do you expect from me? It's the passion, I finally understand it. I'm hiding in the trees like a male praying mantis, searching for my brain. God, please come and bless me, help relieve my stress so I don't worry about death. Never said I was leaving, but dreaming on like Steven. Fallen angel, I'm Zeppelin, not ready for heaven. So please tell me, is there another way? So I can look up in the sky and say thank you for these better days.
1, 2, Vegas coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your doors. 5, 6, hip hop with a twist. 7, 8, please don't hate. 1, 2, Vegas coming.